Jr. Coming through.
That man has a weird case. He is not in the top 10.
He said, you know those wrestling mixtapes that you see on Twitter with the highlights with the music in the background? Yes, I do. Very familiar with them. He said, if you were in charge of the music choice, what would you put in the background for these wrestlers' mixtapes? Arisa Nakajima, Kenta Kobashi, Arisa Hoshiki, 2019 Johnny Gargano, Jay White, and Natalia. I got one for Kenta Kobashi. I think you can do Mobb Deep Burn. I think that would be a good one.
Oh, I was gonna do Waka Flocka Hard in the Paint.
You can use that for Arisa Nakajima.
Yes. Hold on. Can I reach from here? Hold on. I'll be right back. Hold on. Yep, can reach it. This came in the mail yesterday, actually. This actually came in the mail yesterday. Yeah, I bought her. Ended up buying her shirt. Yeah. I don't know if it's her like retirement shirt, but like I was like, I need another Arisa Nakajima shirt before she hangs it up. So I ended up buying it off of Sealand's website with what's it, I think it's called Japan Rabbit. Like Velkesh hooked me up with the assist on that one. So shout out to Velkesh. You know, but Velkesh ain't like room for evil motherfuckers in pro wrestling. Like he's actually a good guy.
Big Velk.
Yeah.
VAG. So Kenta Kobashi, I think you can find any song that has, the word burn in it and do it. Like Black Saber Juice also suggested the Usher Let It Burn. That would be funny. Just him lariating people.
Or chopping people around their fucking head.
Burning hammers.
Yeah.
That Disco Inferno. That burn, baby, burn. You pull Disco Inferno. You pull that out. Arisa Hoshiki. You could just put that Nelly Just a Dream, because it seemed like so long ago, she was around.
Oh, I was gonna do Lil Jon Eastside Boys with Styles P and Jadakiss. We knocking heads off.
That'll work.
And just show her give people the Brazilian kick over and over. Yeah, or the 1399 that when she basically did the rounds off the top rope.
Yeah, can I kick it? That's a good one.
Stop doing it like you would tear your ACL every time you did it.
Yep. You can do kicking the door. You could do, let's see, 2019 Johnny Gargano. Ain't it fun? Paramore. You can do that.
Let's see. I'll probably pick some off the Riot album, but let's see. Nah, probably not Hallelujah. That's crazy. The intro, probably the intro off of Riot. I forgot what the name of the song is, but it's the intro.
Jay White.
Ooh. That's tough.
I don't know.
AEW Jay White or New Japan Pro Wrestling Jay White?
I don't know about Jay White because Nicki Minaj Hard White. Put that up.
Okay.
Then Natalia. I got another for you on that one.
I'm going to reserve my answer for off air about Natalia Rich.
God damn it.
Yeah.
2. What is the percentage that Swerve walks out of Wembley still the AEW champion?
Ooh, probably 60-40.
50. He could win or he could lose.
I think same. I mean, like I think if I were to put money on, I'd be like, I'd imagine because given that how Danielson gets down, like, look, first you might need CM Punk to go. You might need CM Punk to show up and be like, "Hey, Danielson, you're going over." Oh, no, I don't want to go over. You're going over. Put him in the gears. Try to put him in the guillotine. You're going over. Ain't no saying when you come through this curtain, you put a smile on your face. You're gonna win. But yeah, like I say that like the title change is definitely a possibility, but I think I probably still go with Swerve right now. Right now, depending on how this bill goes, I could be swayed, back to straight to 50-50, but right now I'm 60-40 Swerve retains.
3. How many Manami Toyota and Aja Kong spots will Mercedes try to do against Nyla for their match on Wednesday?
Oh God. Hopefully they don't try the that victory roll joint because I don't think Manami's bigger than you think she is. And also both of them, Manami and Ajakama, were a lot more athletic than Mercedes and Nyla. So you might
You mean
you
you
think you finna do some Tokyo Dome shit? It might be your last bump.
about to say you mean you ain't trying to see Mercedes like run full speed and jump on the top rope with both feet and then do a front flip over the top rope
Oh,
onto
you think
Nyla who's on the table?
you know how people talk about bags and everything? You
Yeah.
think that club? You think that particular golf club is in Mercedes' bag? Because I don't.
Oh,
We would have seen it before. First off, hell, in that Heyman match just last weekend, when Danielson hit that springboard flip dive to the floor, you know I jumped out my seat. Let's fucking go, Danielson. Let's go, Brian. Big flip out here. Show the RLPW. Look, I'm telling you this right now. It was very similar to when Kingston fought Claudio in the C2, where it's like I'm behind right now. I'm desperate. Like I got to make a play, and then you got that tope from Kingston, right? Look, if Danielson did that flip dive, don't let Rich fool you. Danielson will not be in the back of that poster that says RLPW. He put him on there. He said, "Oh, fine, I'll give it to him. He won. He hit a little flip for me. He still do what I want to do." But after that last week, I was like, I don't know. He might need to take Danielson off of there the way he was talking. But Danielson had the flip and he got the win, and he's been convinced otherwise now. So he's still back in his good graces. But man, I for as far as Mercedes and Nyla, I'm interested to see how the match goes. Like it could be a great, monster match, monster versus little match. I'm sure Mercedes wanted to wrestle her for a long time.
yeah. Better artists, Luther Vandross or Teddy Pendergrass. Not so much my bag here. I'll say I would prefer to sample Teddy Pendergrass.
Okay. How do I say this without any chance of any of my family hearing this, and therefore it eventually gets to my mom? I'm gonna go with Teddy Pendergrass too. Now, if I'll let you know next week, if my mom hears about this, I expect her to give me a call, and she's not gonna like it. My mom loves Luther Vandross, loves him, seen him multiple times. So, just let you know, I grew up in a household that was playing a lot of Luther. However, I always felt that what resonated with me more was Teddy. And but I never verbalized that in my mom's household or in her vicinity. So just let you know, it's a sensitive subject in the Boyd Miller Bellamy residence, just in family connections, all that kind of bonds. Like, cause like now that I think about it, my grandma loved Luther too. So like, got her soul, but yeah, man, just this was a Luther family, so I can't
be half stepping.
I'm compromised, right? Like I'm like somebody's gonna sew this. I'm gonna have to deal with this. I'm gonna like
compromise like act.
You've been in a similar situation, right? If you ever how you sometimes you kind of cringe or wince whenever you feel like you might have to say something negative about like Aaliyah or Michael Jackson because of your family ties. It's similar to that. It's a strain. It might cause a strain in a relationship.
Yeah, I try not to be critical at all. You know.
Yeah. I remember one time Rich was like, I don't know. I might get excommunicated. I might get excommunicated. I was like, really? Damn.
Oh, another one, Black Saber Jr. says, Onar started in 2012. If my data serves me right, it's now 2024. My God. What are some things in wrestling that are better and worse than they were in 2012? I think ease of access for sure. Like as far as like how much wrestling you can see, where you can see it through legal means, are much better now, and that just has to do with the advancement of technology.
Yeah, you have that. I also think that women's wrestling, as far as the availability to see high quality women's wrestlers and from any place on earth, like I feel like even in WWE, aside from the last year or so, like the women's wrestling in WWE was much better in ring, storylines, stars. AEW caught up this year, and then the idea that there's going to be a Joshi promotion that gets any buzz whatsoever over the last few years, like Stardom has, is a big deal. Like there were, in the 2000s, there were Mako Satomura, Aja Kong matches that went the fuck off and should have gotten 5 stars from Dave Meltzer or something of that level, and should have been on people's match of the year contender thing, and never saw the light of day. Out of Gaia, out of other places, just didn't happen. So the fact that like you have, as you mentioned, the access to be able to see those things, people can actually see it and hear word of mouth about these wrestlers that they otherwise never would have heard of.
Yeah. I think your bang average like nationally televised match is probably a little better now, and obviously the top end, like, so like back in like when we were watching, like James used to say something to me like there were 2 great matches on this pay-per-view, like let it, like that's like, that, what more can you ask for or whatever, like
on a 3-hour show,
right? These were things that were just commonly accepted things, like that now is a disaster, right? I will say, just looking at it, like the independent circuit was a lot stronger then and a hell of a lot weaker now, for sure. And that's because of the arms race that's going on for talent. I would say singular star power was a little bit different in 2012 as well, because this is pre-WWE Network. There's a pre-streaming era, and AEW is kind of a throwback in a sense to like where they said we're gonna, make our bones on the pay-per-view business, and they showed basically it was still viable, but like in 2012 it was like John Cena was just like selling a lot of pay-per-views, like, and him and The Rock, like, don't let them and their funny numbers like that they put out now, basically these press releases talk about this is the hottest time, like in some areas, yes, it is hot. That has to do with television money, that has to do with other shit like that, but a million motherfuckers plus were laying their dollars down for like WrestleMania 28, 29.
How much a pop at the time?
At like $50 or $60 or $70 a pop, like with the HD and shit. Depending
on HD, yep.
These like that's the hottest, like these are singular stars, like singular matches. People were coming back. CM Punk, Chris Jericho matching up. At obviously not how they are now, like younger.
Mm-hmm.
The Rock and John Cena, the last gasp of the Undertaker and Triple H, essentially, like. Those are some of the biggest, like if you just look at it, like, yeah, man, they were making money the quote unquote legit way or whatever, not the business to business stuff. This was from the fans.
And they hadn't realized like what was going to happen to like the event market, to where like they could have charged way more for tickets, and they didn't do so until later. And like they could have charged the price they charge now back then, and they would have went crazy. It went crazy. So there's also that factor, because like, I mean, hell, if they did it right now, if they were to pull out that same exact WrestleMania card from WrestleMania 28 and put it on night 1 or night 2 of WrestleMania, it would do better than what they're doing now, and they're doing great, and they're making crazy bank off gates. But I'm just saying, like, they didn't know. They didn't realize that like they could charge ridiculous prices for floor seats and all that kind of stuff, and like still get people to buy it, and then they'll just let the prices down later time. Like what they've done to the UK with Clash of the Castle last 2 years is high level robbery. Hey, they dying to pay for it.
That's a test run. That shit's coming here. Get ready. So last one, he said, it was said that the Trump shooter shot 8 shots from a long-range distance and only hit once. Is the shooter related to Bronny James?
And this is where we started talking about this, right?
No.
Okay. I'll say, if we're going to talk about it, you go first, because...
So we got MJ does PR. He says, "Gentlemen, hope you're well, having a great summer. Who has the top silks in the game right now, Nahonian or otherwise?"
Ooh. I mean, right now for me, it'd probably be Mercedes.
Yeah, I was thinking Mercedes too. She shows up,
Yeah.
in fits for sure. Two, have you given Eminem's new album a spin? Thoughts on the production? I made it 4 songs through the Eminem album before I had to stop.
Really? You made it through 4?
I made it through 4, and I just can't do it. I don't want to do it. Like
You
I
want
don't.
you want to know the last Eminem album I listened to or project I listened to?
What?
Martha Mathers LP 2.
Yeah,
So that was 2013.
yeah. Like
Another-
it's like he wants. It's like there's a certain level of like outrage. It's like, don't you get it? Don't you get what I'm doing? I want you to be mad. This is how I always. And it's just like, this is not needed. Essentially, like this is like on a week where I listen to the Common and Pete Rock album, and that shit is jamming like all the way through. Guy probably the same age as Eminem, right? And I'm listening to this. He's actually saying something, and he's like displaying his talent and his skills, and like basically like what's old is new with him. And then Eminem is dipping into this, the Slim Shady stuff, and it's just like it don't quite work for me. Like, and it hasn't worked for me in a long time. And like the Eminem I like wasn't obsessed with rapping fast all the time, also either. Like,
well, how else are you able to show your skills if you don't rap fast?
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah.
And that's not no knock on necessarily him, but like a lot of people feel like if you switch up the flow and you rap in triplets or you rap, double time or whatever else, and like that means you're rapping your ass off. And it's like, nah, man, like just rap. Like it's fine. And like one of the things with Eminem is like he tried. We listen to Eminem project, especially like post Eminem show. It is very apparent that he is trying his damnedest to let you know that he is still hungry. He is rapping his ass off. And it's like, that's cool, man. But like being a great rapper and making great songs are not necessarily like
the same
exact thing. Like I understand that's a good process to think that like if you have the killer raps that go over the beats, those are a great starting point for a foundation. But it's like sometimes you need to like strip back the stuff and all of the intricacies and get back to like the basics or whatever else. Like
maybe he just needs to go outside.
Eminem just can't have a Young Boys match. He can't just go out there and have a solid Young Boys match.
He just needs to go outside and like live life.
I think that's a big part of it. Like,
but it's hard for him to live life because he's Eminem. He can't walk around like us.
When you're that famous, and when you're that kind of fame for that long, and you are antisocial, yeah, I can see why he stays home. And like when you stay home, you lose perspective, right? And I think that's and I think the thing is, a lot of people. That's what caught people slipping with the Kendrick Lamar stuff, or people that like the Drake fans that thought that like there was this day was like that
shit would never come.
Was ever going to happen. Was like, you think that this guy, because of the music he makes, doesn't have perspective, or his ears post on what's happening around him, and it's like, no, this dude just made the song of the year off of calling your favorite a pedophile. That is the biggest checkmate ever. Speaking of that, I was hanging out with Marcus today. And Marcus is on the OVO mall, OVO-ish.
Oh no!
He's dragging. I was like, so you pretending like you pretending like this is in the club. He was like, it's different, man. The era's changed. Like I was like, man, get the fuck out of my face.
I'm about to text Marcus tomorrow. I'm like, hey man, stop the perpetration, stop the foolery.
It's funny. It's like it was funny. We were talking about a few things actually. We've been talking about like. Since we're talking about rap right now, like we were talking about like the Busta Rhymes Essence Fest thing. And I was saying like, look, man, like the game has changed on this, and like the old guys don't know how to handle like the new generation of how they give energy back to people, and it's not necessarily disrespect. It's just they're all addicted to their phones or their devices or whatever's in front of them as a screen, and like it's hard to beat the screen because the screen is instant dopamine, instant gratification. So like when Busta Rhymes basically as Essence Fest is like, hey man, like what are y'all doing? Get off your phones.
A lot of that with the Eminem too is like yelling at the audience about what they like or whatever. Like there's a huge part of that in the first like 4 songs, and I'm like, I don't want to be yelled at. Like I'm good.
Right. I think a lot of that, like, cause we were now at this point now, like, you know, the 444 with Jay-Z a few years ago, Method and Redman at Summer Jam saying that because of the way to cry that they're never doing Summer Jam again. Busta Rhymes Essence Fest, Common and Pete Rock doing that album, Q-Tip and LL doing their album that's coming out, I think in the fall.
I will be checking for that.
Yeah, Passion's dope, and that song with that he had with that I first heard the first song thing with Rick Ross and Fat Joe. I thought that was hard. I thought that beat was tough. So
if y'all haven't watched this LL Cool J interview, please watch it.
It's fucking hilarious. Rich sent me a clip of it, the part about like I was talking to Marcus about this too, about like the whole Jay-Z LL Cool J beef. And like it's like they still or LL still can't let this shit go.
He wants it bad.
Go. And he was like, you know, like the part where he said like, you know, people think that you was talking about him on lounging. He's like because you know you talking about the Lexus on there, and then Jay-Z was always talking about the Lexus back then. In the face, when they cut the LL, making the face like, are you fucking kidding me? And he goes, what the nigga has stock in Lexus? I can't run out of Lexus? Are you kidding me? Like that was hilarious, bro. So, but anyway, like. There is an actual you can see the like the old guys can still do this at a high level because it's not actually a sport. This is just like rap has always been so obsessed with youth culture. It's like a lot of you know rock and roll was right. Like you age out of the process, people just tune you out. Next generation want their guys their age that they can more relate to as far as the things they're going through, and that happens. But these guys are still super talented, and if you can, and also we're at a point now where these guys are all legends. So like their American status, like necessarily, it's not about selling what's you know a shit ton of records or being number one. It's about like doing things and still being able to go on tour and hit these certain pockets that you know you can do some touring with and make some money, and people can still appreciate your skill level even though you've aged out. Another perfect example of this is Nas with the King's Disease run.
Yeah,
with Hit Boy,
6 albums,
right. So for me, like there is going to be an adjustment of like dealing with if they're going to be put in these certain showcase events that are not the people that are like they're super just you know heading for the particular demographic of like the people that listen to them that listen to you know Extinction Level event that listen to Cal. I went over to Cal we went through a real quick run on Cal with LaMarcus and I was like, bro. It's so crazy how he was set up for in the early 90s and then like he didn't become like an all-time
he was
greatest MCs even though skills there
with
like,
regular platinum like
but you listen to Cal and you understand why because like why is he rapping over this kind of shit but especially that back half but yeah those guys are still if they're going to be putting these mainstream events Eminem is still because of the amount of records he sells it still has to be relatively considered a mainstream event, even though he should be considered aged out guy because of all these contemporaries we just named. All these contemporaries that we just named are him, all motherfuckers from 20 years ago. So he's going to have this thing where people will listen to him and he might do some talking down or have a disconnect with the youth and it's going to come off the words like, you don't understand because you didn't grow up on being addicted to your phone. You may have been addicted to porn, but you weren't addicted to your phone. Like you may have been addicted to, like you might be addicted to your phone now because there's porn on there, but not because of the ways that we're addicted to it. So, like this Butler that story he's talking about how he's showing what's called you ever heard that story about Eminem with the DVD collection he had?
No.
He was with somebody that was interviewing for a profile piece, and he had he showed this person his collection of porn DVDs, and then the person replied to him, yeah, man, you can just watch all this online now. And then the person basically had to show that man all that shit he got. That whole fucking case of shit is online. And you can put that shit, you can just watch that shit somewhere else without spending money to buy fucking brick and mortar, like hard physical copies of the film Sex and Fornication. I always thought like that's how out of touch he is and to himself he is. But yeah, man. like I just see like that's happening. It's like you gotta adjust, like you gotta if you are going to there's going to be a disconnect because, and ultimately, my point was before we went on this huge tangent was like the way rap changed was like with the club stuff. It used to be, hey, we were coming up, right? Can you play some shit that can knock that's going to sound good in your car? Is it going to sound good wherever you out at a function? Is it going to sound good, or does it sound good when you're alone by yourself, or when you just vibing or whatever else? You had different things to play for different parts of whatever you're doing in your life or your lifestyle or different things you're going through. And it may hit you different ways with whatever is, whatever the setting is.
Yeah.
But ultimately, rap started
to move the crowd.
It started out in the park. But, it's like you had a DJ and you had a master of ceremonies, an MC. And the crowd was vibing to the music that made people want to dance, and then the person was rapping over it. That's the essence of rap. And then, when we were, as I mentioned to Marcus, like when we were a certain age, like, bro, you used to go to the club and you be hot as fuck in the club because motherfuckers want to dance on the floor. Now, everything's bottle service. The soundtrack matches that, or actually
don't nobody want to dance.
Actually, the bottle service stuff more matches the soundtrack of what it became the soundscape of the music, where it's like, we're relaxed, we're vibed out. We might be on activists, right?
Yeah.
It is like, hey, we not dancing. Our heartbeat is slow right now. We chilling and sitting down, and we are scrolling through our phones or listening to music, bobbing our heads or whatever else, and drinking whatever we bought a bottle for. That's cool. No judgment of that, but like that's how much the game has changed. So when you got someone like Busta Rhymes or Meth and Redman at these places, they're
like, what the fuck is this?
They're like, what's happening? Like, they feel like they're being disrespected. They feel like these people are playing in my face. Like, I'm not one of those charismatic motherfuckers that ever like be on a stage to rhyme words together.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all giving me nothing. They see it as disrespect, and they played all these different crowds and arenas, whatever else. They know what worked for what happened back then. So I can see how in their mind and their experience will be like, I'm being played with. So it's just that gigantic disconnect, and like hopefully the more we have, more of these guys that are the legends continue to want to apply their craft doing this, the more we can kind of we can find a middle ground where we can kind of understand like that's where the game has changed, and try to find LL Cool J working with Kendrick Lamar or something crazy like that. I think some of this stuff would be cool, like not necessarily like put it on people's projects or whatever else, or put it on the old guys' projects. Don't necessarily put it on the young guys' projects. The young guys might not actually want to do that.
Yeah.
For the reason, or the labels might be like, we don't want this person because they can't help you or whatever else. But like projects, as far as like other stuff like that, I think, or promotional stuff, I think that'd be cool.
So I'm gonna skip through a couple of these other ones. A lot of people sent stuff in. So this question comes from Discord user Martin Luther Jericho. He said, my question was actually about you, Rich, and it's something I've wanted to know for a bit. One of the most interesting dynamics of listening to One Nation Radio is how James is into comic books and all that nerdy stuff, and you very much aren't. Is there any particular reason why comic books, cartoons, anime, and all that stuff just doesn't resonate with you? This is psychoanalysis of
it me. Is. And it's funny because I was wearing a Wolverine shirt earlier.
Yeah. So I'll say it's like this. All right.
No, sorry for those. Because when the name came out and they said Martin Luther Jericho, like I basically mouthed like, Martin Luther Jericho? Are you fucking kidding me? I actually no, I wasn't on mute. I just did it for comedic effect. Sorry.
Yeah. So like I would probably say for me, like when I was a youth, essentially, I always wanted to be like older than I was. I always wanted to be around whatever my older sister was doing, I was into. Whatever my older brother Taryn was into, I was into. I was trying to grow up, quote unquote, too fast or whatever. I would probably say like a lot of the stuff I got into, I wanted to do or whatever. Like I wasn't content with living in a fantasy world, like, at least how I saw it. Like when I would see like Power Rangers or Mortal Kombat, I was like, all right, I want to learn how to fight. So like I wanted to do karate in my real life so I could do like this shit for real, or whatever.
Mhm.
Wrestling just happened to be like a live action kind of thing. I didn't see it like it was, you know, any of the
It's
anime
not
and
animation.
stuff. Yeah, it just never really hit for me like that. Like, I just wanted to do, yes, I wanted to open up my palm and say, get over here, and have a motherfucker, get a motherfucker over here. That's that's why I wanted to freeze a bitch. But I would probably say like a lot of my interests and stuff, it moved more towards like, all right, there's nothing fake about doing music. Like, there's nothing, I don't know. Like, it's weird for me. Like, it's hard to really say. Like, as far as like, why I don't like it. And I don't even know if I don't like it. I just missed it. Like, because
Mhm.
like I dove so deep into, I was very about real things. Like, I used to love to go to the library and read about boxing history when I was a kid. Like, literally crack open books. Like, I know this sounds like an insane concept, in 2024, but yeah, just, 11 years old, I'm gonna go to the library and just read about Jack Johnson today. Like, I don't, yeah, exactly. What's a Star War? Yeah, like that stuff. Like my dad took me to see, I think it was Star Trek one time. I fell asleep. I was like, nah. Like, and I was like maybe like 8 years old, 9 years
Them Star
old.
Trek movies are hit and miss too. So
So I was like, reading about athletes and all their autobiographies, like that's the stuff I was into. I was into learning about athletes and musicians and stuff like that. Those were my heroes. Those were like, the people and things I found inspiration in. And it just never, like, I looked at cartoons as just cartoons. I didn't look at, and I watched like Nickelodeon. So maybe it was me being a Nickelodeon kid rather than like a Cartoon Network kid, which I would imagine Cartoon Network leads you to like anime. I didn't take that path.
it did, as far as like the Toonami block that had like Dragon Ball Z and like Gundam Wing, like back when around the time like you were in like the early 2000s, like around middle school time for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now he didn't ask, but like for me, like I had the same thing as far as like being so huge into sports, but like the 90s animation boom for like comic book heroes like came. So like you had like Batman the animated series, and then you had Spider-Man the animated series, and you had X-Men. And like I was always into cartoons animation, but like I liked the comic book stuff because it was like, oh, this is like these things are these are pictures, like better rendered pictures and stills of like a cartoon. So you like, I still have like my first comic book is Detective Comics from '89. It's part one of a two-part of a two-part. I never found a part two, and I've actually like reading part two a couple years ago. But like it was just like, oh, this is a quick narrative of what would be like a 5-minute cartoon or whatever else. And you're just reading through it and flipping through it and you see the stuff. It's like, okay, that's cool. And then like to finally get that animated, to see actually Batman animated series, like that was fucking awesome. And it was like you learn things about like life through certain this stuff, like from like what the allegories are. Like X-Men is about diversity. Literally about X-Men is like there is a group of people that are the next step of evolution in society. They have the X genome or X genetic marker, and they have these super powers or whatever else based off of their genetics. And people in society do not want to be replaced and are
We will not replace us.
this is the early 90s, and this comics book is going on. This comic book series is been animated into a television show, and like it is like the play of like these superheroes are saving the world and saving humanity against the same humanity that fucking hates them, and actually will be willing. And then they rebooted the series or whatever else to the night with this, and they're like, and a part of it is like they would rather die. They would rather not exist and have mutants, surpass. And it's like, gee, don't that sound familiar based on the politics of the world? And that was always the politics of, like a lot of comic books like teach you something that you may have not actually just inherently known about the world, the world that you live in. And like that's one thing that's so funny about me when you or funny to me when like the media literacy stuff, when like you have these Republican these Republican politicians like say that their favorite like bands are like Rage Against the Machine, is like,
They don't be knowing like
you're what do you think? Who do you think they were talking about as being the people that need to be toppled? You fucking never mind. But my point is like you like for example like Star Wars, another fiction series, like that was about like imperialism.
mm-hmm.
That was about occupancy in Vietnam War, right? Like it's also a part about like, hey, stormtroopers, they're space Nazis. Like so, it's another part of media literacy where like Republican National Conventions in like 2008, like they thought that they were the rebels and not the Empire. It's like, nah, y'all are the Empire. What do y'all think? What? Like, so that's why it's always interesting. Like, or one of the things that drew me to comic books was like the sociology involved of the worldview, because like it's like, hey, we're building this world where like a lot of these places is basically like, hey, it's very similar to our world in the Marvel universe, basically like the same exact world, except there's aliens that we know the aliens, there's super technology, and there's certain people that have like amazing powers and abilities, and like how would the world react? How would New York City react if there was a motherfucker that got bitten by a radioactive spider and he's out here because he's not super power, he's stronger than the average man and all that kind of stuff, but not like he can control the world with his power. He decides like to use his powers at first to become a pro wrestler and then shoot on somebody, still make money off shooting on somebody, and then because of that, again stiffed on his payoff. Like the person that stiffed on his payoff ended up like killing his uncle that was his surrogate father, and that's the story. That's the origin story of Spider-Man, right? Like it's all this kind of stuff. Like if you're in the real world, you apply these few little things. Like how would the world change a little bit? How would it react to it? And like what can, from the stories you are taking in, like what can that mean about like if you just relate it to real life in a way? And it's like, yeah, X-Men spoke to me in that way. Like I remember there was I think it was X-Men 2, the second movie, and it was one character that like can shapeshift and be anything,
Mm-hmm.
named Mystique, and there was another character that was also like just blue skin, and his ability was the ability to like transport to different areas, teleport. I'm sorry, teleport different areas, right? And he walked up to her and said, "If you could be anybody, and we both got this blue skin, like why wouldn't you choose to be to look like a normal person?" And he's like, and her response was like, why should the world make me like change who I am?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it was kind of like for me, it was just like you get stuff like that. It's like to think on as far like how we treat people in the world based off of like what their differences are, and like for me, that's what draws me to comic books. Like the human part of the super ability stuff. That part is what draws me to superheroes. Like the part of like, oh my god, Superman can pull the sun out of orbit or whatever else he wanted to. I mean, that's cool visual, but like the parts of the stories is like the human element.
I would say I'm very into Rocky. If we talk about something that's like, but again, it's people or whatever. Maybe like the animation part is the hold up.
Rambo and Slam Pig point out the Superman thing. Like Superman is the American story. It literally is an American story. Like he's an illegal alien. Like he's an immigrant. Like his planet is dying. His parents put his ass in a spaceship and just shoot him out into space, and he lands in Kansas.
That's funny.
And then he doesn't realize he has superpowers until he's a teenager. Or most, depending on the origin stories, the origins changed over a bunch of time. But like the general story is like he doesn't realize he has powers to a certain age. But like he fights for truth, justice in the American way because he's an American. Mm-hmm. He may not be from here, but he may not be from here, but he's an American.
Yeah, like I love like Rocky and like all of them to this day. Like with Creed, like that's like the stuff that like appeals to me. Like, so Sir Sam says Blood and Guts feels very flat this year. Why do you think that is? So there's an old phrase I think that'll kind of make sense. So like I think it is a match, or excuse me, it is a it is a match that is being had because of a stipulation, not a stipulation that's being had because of a match. Um, and I think it's like kind of transparently this year revealed itself to be that more than any other year. It's like, yeah, we knew Blood and Guts was coming. How are we getting there? And I think they're still working on it. Even I think the Swerve Okada match tomorrow is probably going to play into that. There's still, the Darby Allin attack coming, and it's just taken so long that it feels like, I think, less than it was, and I don't think it's even like drawing all that well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you with what you're saying as far as like, yeah, it's just that time of the year, so we got to do it. And like, I mean, they set up in a long time like the stuff that like the Elite versus AEW thing. I just think that like it fell flat because it's the Elite versus AEW, like
It's weird.
all elite wrestling versus the Elite. Don't that sound dumb?
Yeah,
Like
it's
like it,
weird, man.
like I think we okay, so this is the thing with like Will or actors that are very successful. That like we kind of just let them slide on things they let them slide based off of like just their standing. Like Denzel Washington can get any movie role he wants to, and Denzel Washington ain't got to change his accent at all. He's just gonna talk how he talks because he's Denzel Washington. We live with that, right? Like George Clooney is George Clooney in every single movie he's been in for the last 20 years because we like George Clooney. He ain't got to flip up nothing. He ain't got to be vulnerable. He ain't got to show certain things. He just got to be himself. He just show up on the set in the suit, holding them up, and basically be Danny Ocean from Ocean's 11, and it's fine, right? Like Up in the Air is one of my favorite movies of all time. He's basically just Danny Ocean all over again, except he's firing, he's getting on planes to fire people, right? So,
It's
the
hard to do
problem with
this. I was gonna say it's hard to do this without Kenny Omega.
that's true. I said all of that. What I was saying about the actors thing is like, it's hard for us to actually boo the Elite because we love the Elite and we just realize they're doing a really good job. Like we don't actually think they're the either overseers and overdoers. Like
Yeah.
it was easier to boo the McMahons when the McMahons doing because we know how Vince and the McMahons get in the whole Lower Nights all them get down. We know they're actually shitty people, so it's actually easy to boo them. When it's the Elite, it's like we know this all will work. I can't really sink my teeth in this and buy it. And also, it's like they're not also like seem to be like preserving their bodies while doing this too.
Yeah. And like, they're gonna have the cool dynamics. Like when Swerves is standing next to Darby, that's gonna ring off, right? That's gonna be a great visual. These lifelong career rivals, standing side by side. That's gonna be dope. When Okada's in there in a match where he potentially runs the razor, it's gonna be interesting. It's just like when we see it in action, I think it's gonna work, right? But getting there is going to, like, we're taking bumps and bruises along the way, and a lot of that has to do with, like I said, like it's hard to do this entire angle without Kenny Omega there. And flat out, I don't know who needs to hear this or whatever, but like this is one of like the most central, like, people, to talk about whoever you want in the company, right? But that guy's fucking different, and the room changes when he comes in. When he came back and he cut that promo and they laid him out, that's the last time this thing felt like it was like there's something here or
Yeah.
whatever.
Because it's
Like,
also like now we have Christopher Daniels and he's doing Khan's bidding, and it's like, for example, right? I thought of this, and then I got a screenshot of John from Omakase saying this, and it was like, so this past weekend they ran a video pack of a VTR vignette, whatever, a video package of like Mass Caster diss rapping the Young Bucks, and it's like, oh, so they weren't at the controls this week. Even though we seem to be at the controls, or if they weren't at controls, even Okada was at controls saying, I pressed the wrong button, bitch. Like, so how did this get through? How did this not get stopped in the middle of the thing, or like get like 8 bars in and get shut down? Like it's one of those. It's like, all right, man, this is just like any other old goofy old wrestling storyline is supposed to be well taken care of, and it's like for 8, that's not a norm. That's an unusual oversight for the Elite.
And like they've not committed to Jack Perry in the way I know he pinned Danielson in the last pay per view, right? But what's happening to Danielson now? Line go up, you know. Jack Perry, like they haven't like taken the steps to be like, yo, there's a true elevation going on here. It's like we're trying to push him forward. Like that hasn't happened. It's like he's amongst the group when he came back with so many possibilities. And it's been they wasted his return like on an impromptu match with Dustin Rhodes that wasn't advertised. It was like that's a mistake. So like a lot of these like small like it was 1,000 paper cuts. A lot of these paper cuts, like if you just blend them all together, that's like a motherfucker with his arm sawed off, essentially.
I feel like a lot of it was them waiting around on like waiting around on Omega's health, and then like it just don't appear to be ready. And like I it's cool they want to do that, but this is expensive. You wait on something and it goes left on you.
So Rambo and Slant Pig says, who do you think Swerve should eventually drop the title to? Danielson at All In, Hangman later, someone else?
I think those would be the number two option or top two options in my opinion right now.
If it was me, I think I would want to drop the belt on the biggest stage possible. If it was me, like I'd be like, all right, if I'm going to Wembley, I'll lead a belt there and go out in style, like rather than drop that shit on a Dynamite somewhere or drop that shit elsewhere. Like,
you mean another pay-per-view? You mean?
Yeah, like I mean, another pay-per-view is fine, but like, if I'm gonna lose, I'm gonna do it in the biggest stage possible. Personally, that's just how I look at it.
I don't know, man. Most people would rather win on the biggest stage possible, Rich. That's kind of how sports work.
That's true.
It's kind of wrestling works too.
No, but I'm saying like if you had a show, all right, James, you the champion. Where are you dropping the belt at?
It is my choice.
Yeah.
Not in the biggest show of the year.
so you on that Triple H? You gonna wait till the next month?
Well, in Triple H situation, it would just be rematch after rematch after rematch.
Yeah.
In AEW, it's not rematch after rematch after rematch. So it's a little different. But yeah, like me personally,
a house show.
Drop
that shit on ROH. Like, there's an AEW title match on ROH this week. Get
the hell out of here with that nonsense. No, what I mean by that is like, all right, so we had to do, how long was MJF champion for? What, 14 months, 15 months?
Yeah.
Right?
Too long.
Right. He was for over a year, and then we put it on Joe at the very end of December, and then like we did the nonsense with the turn or whatever else for Hangman, and like the ref and striking the refs in their match so they can extend that to April, because they didn't want to change the title basically at the same time that they were going to change the title. They were going to have Sting main event to leave. So then they put on April, put on Swerve then, and it's like, all right, so now get it to late August, and then switch the title. Is like, that's not a transitional title reign because he did beat Ospreay, but like if the whole idea is restore the feeling, is like, let's get this shit to 6 more months, or let's get not 6 more months, let's get this shit to like about the 6 months part, and that's right, a nice sweet spot to drop this thing after just coming off as transitional champion, right? In my opinion, they ain't got to do what I want, what I just suggested. I'm just saying as a nice like to kind of get further removed from the nonsense that was the end of the MJF run. It's like we had a solid transitional champion, also have a solid title reign, and then we'll figure out where we go from there. Like I'm more concerned on like on the title reign, like the who the champion like beat than necessarily the length of it. And it's like he got Ospreay, but it's like, can he get one more? Can he get one more? Can he get 2 more? And then we'll go from there. Because like I that's the thing I've always found interesting and I've liked about AEW so much, is like champions face the real threats. For the most part. They face real threats, and someone's gonna go up and go down, and then after you go up or go down, or after you go down, you're gonna have to like you have to find your way back narratively in a compelling way to get the crowd to get back into you. And that's I think the reason why people, were so big on the Hangman thing, because like Hangman got it, on his got it, was great with it, and then like they moved him aside for Punk, and then like he found another thing to get hot again, and he they could make that was good more than good enough the main event, right? This show is coming up in Wembley. And like people were like, well, just do it now. I was like, nah, man, he's super talented. He has a super character that he can lead, that he has to run with for the next few months. And I think they'll see each other again. I honestly think that. Like, because I trust in this Booker. He's right now the only Booker I actually do trust in pro wrestling.
King of the North said, I'm dropping my belt 6 from the top. You sicko.
No, that's nasty.
That's crazy.
Hey, yo, King of the North. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Woo.
Yeah, I ain't touching that one at all.
So
that's crazy.
They if he could remain upright and I was guaranteed a clean bill of health, I'd have him drop it to Darby. Career story. Swerve, like Darby Allin owns Swerve Strickland. Death taxes and Darby owns Swerve. That's what I'd do. But
I mean, how do you get there if it seems like he's set to be wrestling Jack Perry?
I don't know. I was just talking about me. Like I wasn't trying to actually book it, but
okay.
So I'm gonna skip over that other one, Rambones. Try to get to a couple more of these folks. Martin Luther Jericho again. He's got another one. I think that would be a good one. Or he's actually got 2 good ones. Do you think fans being overly critical is killing their enjoyment of AEW from being unable to discuss a good episode of Dynamite without zeroing in on something they didn't like, to complain about the venues the companies go to without acknowledging the factors that go into venue selection along with the wider state of entertainment, which may lead to AEW getting a good deal in these venues? Certain people just seem to try their hardest to not like shit. I think
mean that's a lot of the whole entire AEW experience is like the online discourse, which are already skews especially negative because people don't want this thing to even exist.
That you got to start there, and then, but I think people should be critical of the things they enjoy, like because it's not like hey,
don't cheerlead for people. Make them look. If you like them earnestly, that's great, but that doesn't mean that you have to then like suffer or swallow any nonsense that they put on your plate.
Yeah, because then it just becomes like you just have to carry the water or whatever,
right.
And then eventually your arms are gonna get tired,
right.
And then eventually like we're gonna be playing like a piece of audio that you do if you're a podcast host. We're gonna be playing it years later, laughing at it, how insane you went defending the company. Like these are things that exist or whatever.
Yeah. Like once that thing becomes your identity and you can't actually like be self-aware enough to realize like you're too close to it, then like next thing you know, you are here on Twitter crashing out, being upset that a serial sex trafficker is being brought to justice.
Yeah.
You don't want to be on the wrong side of that kind of history.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose yourself in that.
Yeah, so like
because I ain't gonna forget this whole Vince run. I'm not gonna forget the people that tweet out that nonsense.
That bullshit then, and that continue to uphold it now. And then more Janelle Grant stuff is dropped. Like she's requesting the medical records and stuff like that. We see Triple H every time he gets one of these questions, he starts scrambling and skedaddling. Look, like. I don't think that's killing their enjoyment. I think, like what James said, everything that's combined. Joe Lanza and David Bixenspan did a great 3-hour episode on wrestling media. Check it out. But basically, like what has happened with AEW is like the propaganda worked, like from 2021 and everything that has to do with the echo chamber of YouTube videos with the British YouTubers, the negative engagement accounts, WWE poisoning the well with the fast national stuff, sending out their legends to do podcasts and stuff like that to fight these battles and dictate the discourse. Like, it's worked or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, it took these people that
And it was
these
always going to work if anybody ever bothered to do it, because like we see this being done at the political level.
yeah, and like, and just the numbers, it's like they're
Yeah.
weaponizing this larger set of audience or whatever
Yep.
through these obviously eh, mostly ridiculous talking points from it's not everything's like completely off the mark, but like
Yep.
when Kevin Nash is getting sent out there to get to do his podcast, and everything's getting aggregated by all the people that are thanking Vince McMahon, that are running the websites or deciding the aggregation to this, who just have a personal emotional attachment to WWE and are upset that this thing exists. Like, the job is done. Like, we're not playing, like, it's not a level like field or whatever. Like, there's no other side, quote unquote, of media or whatever that is going to be like, unless it's something like independent voices, like So Suplex Podcast Network, Voice of Wrestling, different stuff like that are not like these affiliated platforms, so to say, like, to where aggregation is coming from them constantly. And how it goes is it comes out of those levels, whether the information is real or not or anything like that. Like the Fast Nationals thing, people take it to different ecosystems. People bring it to TikTok, people bring it to Instagram, people bring it to Facebook, which is a hellhole. Yeah, people bring it to Reddit, which is a fucking we already know how it goes. They don't want it to exist. So like, unfortunately, like, I don't think AEW has bothered to fight back, and it's almost like you see, it's like, why don't you defend yourself more? But it's almost like, how would it look if you defend yourself? I think
Right.
that's what they think. I'm like, no, man, come out there, like, bro. There's so, like, that's why when Tony will tweet something like
How dare you?
the allegations about Vince McMahon and stuff, people like go batshit insane, because
Yeah.
it's like they don't want AEW to fight back. They don't want them to challenge the all great WWE thing that has been 60 years in this country. They don't want that challenged.
There's that. Plus, there's also, as you mentioned, like with all of the propaganda that's out there and the dirty pool that's being played, it's like it's back to the political thing, right? Like, Nancy Pelosi's husband gets beaten with a hammer,
Right.
and one side says, "Oh, this wasn't actually like this person wasn't actually a victim of political circumstance. This person was having a gay affair." Roles reversed. Someone almost gets taken out by a hail of gunfire. The other side can't come out here and start saying it's a hoax or whatever. It's got to be, hey, this is fucked up. We gotta hand. May God, bless him, and lucky by grace of God, he's still alive, and it's unacceptable, because it is like one side if one side is allowed to sling mud, the other side can't, and the other side is trying to stay clean. They have to continue staying clean, otherwise eventually they get into the mud, and then when they get into the mud, finally they'll be saying, "Oh, you're a hypocrite alone. We don't listen to you." It's always that play. So that was the standards for all of this. Vince has always been muddy. WWE's always been muddy. They've always been competitive, and this goes with it. It was always a war started from one side aggression towards the other. The other side, whenever they stand up for themselves just even a little bit, it's how dare they? They're supposed to just take it on the chin.
Yep. They're supposed to be perfect. They're supposed to be, whatever. Like there's a lot of, there's a lot.
And then when when like you mentioned a
lot of parallels.
And then once you throw them out there, it was like, I don't look. The cons are NFL owners. I would not be shocked to find out about their political leanings one way or the other, right? I'm just saying, like that is the standing. Like one side is allowed to sling mud, the other side chooses not to, and when they throw a speck of dirt, it's the biggest deal in the world. Meanwhile, the dump truck's still getting dumped on them every week, and that's been the case for 5 years now.
Yep.
But
and
I think
eventually, like
it's up for people to realize that's actually what the game is, and if they don't, then like they just aren't they're unaware that they're getting caught, they're getting worked in this way.
Yeah.
So, bro, when that contract comes out for their new rights deal, people gonna be fucking flabbergasted. I thought this thing was filmed the whole time. Whoa, I've been listening to dumbasses. Does that mean I'm a dumbass? Well, Not necessarily. It means you got fooled.
Well, you
stop getting worked.
Like these people, like they have bought into this thing wholeheartedly, right? When that contract drops, I don't go unhinged on Twitter much anymore. But that day that drops, look,
Cheeseboard guy gonna be sick. His message is gonna be disgusting.
I don't know.
He might want to call in that day.
I might have to.
He might want to call out that day.
I might have to pre-write a list in advance or whatever of motherfuckers I plan on. Like Tupac said, personally hitting them up. I'm like, hey, what do you have on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a act up.
Boy, Eric Bischoff, he may as well deactivate his account.
Yeah. Lead app now.
They did because it was like, oh, so they did everything wrong, yet they made more money than you ever did, and they don't run longer than you.
Hurt.
Ooh, rough.
Hurt. Jim Cornette.
All this because you thought they was gonna give you a job and they didn't.
Crazy. Wow. Someone pointed out that the Discord pointed out the 286 and Final Nitro and the 286 Dynamite are going to be on the same day of March 26th, 2025. Wow. Disco Inferno, yeah, he'll be coming to the stage as well. A lot of people going to be coming to the stage. I don't even want to single them out.
But here's the thing.
It's just,
most of them realize they're all full of shit, so they'll accept it and be like, "This is more engaged for me." And yeah. I'll get to yell out my lies on my podcast, whatever platform I have.
Motherfuckers, they can have whatever platform they want to have, right? But it's not on you to believe them or follow that bullshit.
People. It's easy to listen to a podcast and watch another 5 hours of pro wrestling. Yeah.
Let's see. Let's get one more. I'm not in this with a Jake Lee question. I'm sorry, Dr. Larry. Let's see.
Shout out to Chris Sampson on Keep the Strong Style. Another year, another G1 preview. Another great show by the guys. Yeah, man.
Check that out. Absolutely.
Check that out while we in the middle of mentioning stuff.
Yep. One last question will go from Martin Luther Jericho. He says, Rich, how did the second volume of Who We Are come together?
I'm sorry, Rich. This Martin Luther Jericho has now turned into like when Jericho was showing up a few weeks ago at a new segment. It's like I keep hearing Martin Luther, it keeps popping me more and more and more, and I keep being like, why is this happening still? All right, go ahead, man. Go ahead with the question. Sorry.
So how did the second volume of Who We Are come together? What's the process for finding the right sound for the wrestlers who have their stories told on the album? So I guess this is a good time to mention that I'll be going in depth on this. I'm on AEW Unrestricted this week. I recorded interview with Mikey Ruckus was on it as well. Will Washington, Aubrey Edwards. That's going to drop Thursday. I believe my segment's probably like 20, 25 minutes, something like that. But without stepping too much on what that's going to be, pretty much like it came from my work on Volume 1, which like I guess impressed a lot of people in the right places with, what I was able to deliver, the ease that it was to work with me. And I just started like putting the stuff I was doing on display. Like I was just like, treating it like, some of my regular other music. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do a behind the beat video. I'm gonna show how I did it. And then Phil Lindsay, shout out to Phil from Grapsity, he actually wrote an article on Bleacher Report pretty much talking about the project, and then he embedded some of my videos in there. So I don't know who saw that or whatever, but it's a huge platform. So from there, like that kind of, I think, put me into the orbit, so to say. I was already cool with Mikey Ruckus and work with him a bunch, and did the stuff on the album. Like Montezi brought me in to basically like submit some production, and I ended up sending a verse on Nyla Rose's song. And then this time, Mike was like, yo, I want you to do pretty much the whole thing next time. Like, and I was like, wow. So we went to the table, and basically he got me right, and he gave me the list essentially of people, and I started, I made a few fresh beats, and I went to the vault for some, and I just try to pick, well, like when I think about whatever the wrestler is, I try to think about, does this music match them? If I was going to bring them into my world and be like, yo, how do I interpret them through hip hop, essentially? Like Athena's one. When I think of Athena, I don't necessarily think of rap, right? But if I did, right, I was like, all right, what am I going to give her? So pretty interesting, take on that. So, and I did beats for, I want to say at least like 10 or 11 songs on the project. So I'm like the quote unquote lead producer of it. And all the song previews have been coming out on Twitter this past week, and people have been going up for them. Like a lot of positivity, very little negativity. Cause with these kind of things, obviously, the negativity will come. Like I'm obviously aware, and I expect that to a certain extent. But I helped mix a lot of the songs on the project too. I helped, facilitate conversations with people. Like I was able to, I got my homeboy Daryl, who I pretty much started in the rap game with when I was a teenager. I got him on the album, so that was pretty cool. I was able to do that. I got Gats on the album. Got my sister on the project. She's rapping, so it's kind of wild. I was able to, someone brought me in, so just keep passing it on. So I think it was pretty cool of Mikey to entrust me with a lot of this stuff, because I don't know, like if you're Mikey Ruckus, right? Obviously he's not black, right? And this whole thing is like, about black wrestlers and wanting it to come from a certain perspective and, certain people. I imagine, I fall off the back of a truck in front of Mikey Ruckus is like, this is a gift. And so I fought with Mikey Ruckus a long way. So it's it was pretty fun. And I'm hopeful, there's a part 3. There's obviously more wrestlers on part 3 that would need music made for them, a Mercedes, a Brian Keith, something like that, like on volume 3.
Oh, that volume 3 Brian Keith, a lot of that. Oh, that's gonna be nasty.
So yeah, like the whole thing, it's been coming together since, like, I think they originally were talking about dropping it last September. So it's gone through a couple different iterations. There's songs that unfortunately are not going to make the project that can't talk about yet. Like, you guys will see kind of what's there, and then you'll be like, oh, what's going on? But there was one song that I lost on there that I really liked. And I got to kind of work with somebody I had never worked with on it before, so that was pretty cool. But I'm sure we'll get to it again. But the first song they released from it was the Willow Nightingale song, which is the song I was on. I didn't know they were gonna do that. So like basically like I picked the wrestlers and I assigned the beats. Mikey Ruckus randomly picked all the talent and like, all the rappers or who's going to go where. And he paired me with Josiah Williams, obviously from, NXT days. And then Victor Perry, who runs the wrestling club, who's a great singer. and it was like, yo, y'all got Willow Nightingale song. I was like, wow, I wanted to do the Willow Nightingale song anyway. So like it was, it wasn't like I just picked my own thing, but yeah, I set myself off, and it was really easy working with those guys. I think that song is quite dope. I heard Willow likes it very much. I have not spoken with her yet, but hope to one day.
So two things real quick. One, King of the North said James on part 3. No.
Let's go.
No.
Let's go. Look. If not on part 3, I figure we maybe we can get something. We can do something on part 3.
It will not be James Boyd on the beat. It will not, it will not be none of that. So like you mentioned you mentioned the Mikey Ruckus part, and like, so what I'm waiting for in particular is like when we gonna get, like, because of like the Lucha Bros, Sammy Guevara, like we have a bunch of Hispanic athletes and wrestlers in AEW. Like when are we gonna get like something similar to that? Like that has like different types of like Hispanic music on there. Like, is there a possibility? Do you think there's a possibility
I think
be like
is.
something like that? Like you'll have some merengue track, something like that, or something like reggaeton. So, like, what I'm saying? Like, because I'm sure there's connects for that too.
Yeah. I think that would be possible. All depends if AEW wants to open up the budget on that. And there are hoops that need to be jumped through to make these albums come to life. So shouts out to everyone that was clearing everything, like, all right, it's passing this stage, all right, we're good to go. So I hope you guys enjoy the album, one, and maybe maybe that night when it comes out at midnight, they're kind of pushing it as a midnight release after Dynamite. I don't know if I will do a live stream there, but maybe like I don't know, over the weekend or something like that. I'll live stream the album on Twitch and play the tracks and kind of talk more about it or whatever. But yeah, I would love to see like some Latino music. I love Spanish music, so I don't know if I'd be able to help with that, but I'm sure I can figure something out. But